show for you tonight, as always. 6 really different stories, but all very compelling in their own way. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping things. You guys all know this, but Sloan values are in effect for this event. These guys are sharing something really personal with you, so please be respectful of their time and all of our time, and don't use your devices. Also, if you like the yarn, which I know you all do, we have some other great related events coming up. Sloan Diversity Committee is putting on a few AMA events during lunch, the first of which will be this Thursday. Ask Me Anything LGBTQ. So please come. It's at lunch, and you will get free lunch from Cafe Luna and hear some great insights from your peers. And if you want free lunch, you have to sign up by today. So, yeah. So with all of that out of the way, let me introduce our first speaker. John Watson is MBA 2017. He is from North Carolina, though he's never lived there. And his fun fact is that he has double jointed shoulders, which he says are literally the most useless double joint ever.
Okay. Everybody hear me? Yeah. Cool. Picture this. It's a cold evening in February in Washington, D.C. My entire family is out to dinner at a nice Italian restaurant, and we are the focal point of the entire place. Every table is staring at us because my sister and I are sobbing. We are in tears, breaking down catatonically in the middle of this restaurant. Everybody's staring at us. My parents are trying every trick they have in their bag, petting us, trying to appease us, whatever they can. They've never seen us this upset in our lives. The maitre d' of the restaurant is actually on the phone about to call the cops because he thinks that my parents are kidnappers and they've taken us from our real parents. And that's when I found out I was moving to Germany. A little bit of background. I was born in D.C. I spent the first 10 years of my life in Maryland, and kind of living like the quintessential suburban American dream life. I started making friends in kindergarten, the kind of friends that you're like, oh, we're going to be friends all the way through to senior in high school when we graduate. I was really integrated playing sports in DC, and the general concept of even living in another city in America, let alone a place where they don't speak English, was absolutely and totally foreign to my worldview. I had no comprehension of any other place outside of DC, which is why it was just a shock when I was 10 years old and my parents told us that we were moving to Germany. And at first, Germany was really, it was like a vacation. We first moved there, we lived in a hotel, because our stuff wasn't there yet. And this hotel complex was just amazing. It had this massive pool complex, and so it was just like Disneyland. It was just like a vacation. My sister and I could imagine that we were just on a 2-week trip, and it wasn't real. We hadn't actually moved there. And so my sister and I would routinely go down to this pool complex every day and swim around and run around, until one day we were down there and we found the sauna. And so we went into the sauna space, and we went inside and we open up one of the doors and go into this new room, and there is this stark naked German woman who immediately identifies as us as American and pinpoints us and goes, "Children, you must take off your clothes immediately." That's when living in Germany became really foreign to me, really quickly. My sister and I run screaming, because when you're faced with a foreign, what do? You run away screaming. And so we ran screaming back to my mom, and we find her, like, Mom, we found a stranger, and she told us to take our clothes off immediately. What is wrong with this place? And that was, really the moment where, suddenly the aura of Disneyland, the aura of, this just being a vacation was, suddenly shattered. Suddenly we were in this weird place where I didn't speak a lick of the language, and where there was an entirely different set of cultural values and how you're supposed to raise a family and how kids are supposed to interface with everybody. So that first year that I lived in Germany was maybe the most miserable year of my entire life. Like I said, I didn't speak a lick of the language. We had trouble integrating into school. I had a really hard time making friends. And every day, I remember I would just go to school, come home, and I just play video games every day until 10 p.m., which is when I could call back to America when my friends in D.C. got out of school, and that's when I could talk to them again and kind of like talk through what I was going through. And I was a mess. But gradually, like, I started to accommodate and to adapt, and started to realize that Germany had opened up all of these doors that would otherwise been closed to me. So I started to play sports at school. I became eventually the power forward for my school's varsity basketball team, which speaks volumes more about the general athletic population at the international school in Germany rather than my basketball ability. And so at the end of it, our time in Germany came up, and my dad's company asked us if he wanted to go back to America or stay in Europe, and my entire family decided to stay in Europe. And it was like one of the greatest decisions that we ever made as a family. Flash forward 15 years, I'm living in San Francisco. I've moved twice since Germany, and both times had adapted really quickly. We moved to France after Germany, and then after that I moved to California to go to undergrad and stayed out there. And both times I adapted super quickly. I made friends immediately. I instantly connected with this new situation. And now it's spring of 2015, and I've accepted an offer to Sloan. I'm really happy to come here. I'm really excited about it. And I get to Sloan, and it's my first day having moved into Cambridge, and my roommate, one of my roommates, Sam Ebb, says, "Hey, let's go get our student IDs." I'm like, "Awesome. That sounds great." So we go down to the student center, and we pick up our IDs, and Sam's like, "Hey, do you want to get some lunch?" I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, what do you want to get?" And he's like, "How about Mexican?" Mexican. I love Mexican's like a real comfort food for me. I grew to love it in California. And my last meal in San Francisco was actually a burrito before leaving California. And Sam takes me up. He's like, "I know this awesome burrito place. It's going to be great." And he takes me up to Anna's Taqueria. And I bite into a profoundly mediocre burrito. And it's just like I'm in the sauna again. It's everything that I'm familiar with and everything that I love and that I go to seek comfort in, that cool complex, the burrito, it's suddenly different. It's suddenly strange. It's suddenly terrible. And that kind of triggered all of my anxieties about making friends at Sloan, about adapting to a new place. I really hadn't fully pieced it together how foreign Boston is from California, and that was like a real eye-opener for me. And that kind of foreignness continued through my first semester at Sloan, and I really struggled to kind of find myself inside of the Sloan community and inside of Boston. And I think this might come as a surprise to a lot of people who kind of know me, because I made a very conscious effort to never kind of show my struggles of kind of adapting to Sloan, to the Sloan community. And so I really became apparent to myself when I'd call my parents, and my parents who I love, and suddenly our conversations were short and terse, and I was picking fights over the smallest things. I was really short-tempered with them. Even the way I was describing Boston, you could just tell, the rest of my family could pick up that I wasn't fully happy and wasn't fully at home there. And so it kind of, as I was putting together the story, it really kind of came together for me, how unhappy on the inside I had been my first semester at Sloan. And I was kind of thinking, I was like, 15 years went by after I lived in Germany, and I thought I knew better. I thought I had more answers. I had been through college. I had learned a lot, both from my friends socially, but also intellectually. I had all these new metrics and new ways of kind of thinking about things, and I still fell into the exact same mindset of being 10 all over again when I first came here. And I mean, reading, it's really funny, reading all these cases at Sloan, you get all of these, you hear all these people, you hear all these solutions to different problems. And I constantly think about how I learned all these solutions for how to adapt and never actually applied them when I came here. And when push came to shove, I just resorted back to what I knew, and that wasn't the right move for me. So I guess this is the part of the story where I tell you that I'm super adapted to Cambridge, and that I'm loving life here, and it's great. It's not. there's still days where I struggle with Boston. There's still days where I kind of look outside and I say, like, what am I really doing here? I still really enjoy going down to New York. I have anxiety is still about being here. I mean, like, I feel like I definitely feel more connected to the Sloan community now, and it's starting to really grow into me. And I'm starting to really challenge, like, how that mindset that I first came into Sloan. So if anybody has any burrito recommendations, I'm open to it. Thank you.
Wait for everyone to come in, but our next speaker